Hello, this is the December video chat. Um, this is following a discussion I just had about the updates on Stop Killing Games campaign, how that's going. Nothing too vital yet. We're just kind of waiting things mostly. Um, so yeah, I guess I'll go to the questions then. Let's see. I might be a little bit, well, we'll see. Every time I say it might be shorter, I end up not being. But I've been spending almost all my time in the next game dungeon and the campaign stuff, so I've been really busy. Okay, so the first question. Oh, no, I have an announcement. Jeez. The announcement, I'm probably, okay, I received an email from YouTube on Accursed Farms Junk channel, which is usually where I throw stuff that's kind of more throwaway material, that they're going to kick me out of the partner program unless I get more videos up. And while I wouldn't necessarily care about that too much, that means I would lose my ability to publish like long videos up there. And I kind of want to retain that. So I'm thinking, okay, I better get something out for that. So I'm going to have another stream session. My plan at the moment is like around this time or maybe a little earlier next week. But if I'm just down to the wire trying to get the next game dungeon out, then I might kick that back another week, and that should be on my birthday on the 28th. I hadn't decided what game to stream yet. I was leaning towards Quest for Glory. That's one I've always been meaning to get around to playing, and I never did, the VGA remake. But I'm open to other suggestions. If we wanted one where I beat the game that same session, I remember I floated to, was it Paul Morgan Stetler when he invited me for a stream. One was Conspirocracy, was another adventure game. Or, geez, there was another one. Oh yeah, Clam Man. That was another one I was considering. But I'm open to others. However, I have to like the suggestion. So that's my caveat there. But, I mean, it doesn't have to be an adventure game. It could be something else. But I'm kind of picky these days. I had a spree, I think last month, where I think I must have gone through 10 games on my list in the span of just like a day or two. Not because I played them to completion, but because I played like 5 to 20 minutes of them. I realized, nah, I'm not really into this, but I'm curious about how it ends. Skim through a playthrough, and like that's it. It's off the list. But then others I just played from beginning to end, so it varies. Yeah, if somebody's saying Disco Elysium, that's too big a game. That would take like, I mean, isn't it? I mean, would that take like multiple sessions? I kind of wanted to do something a little shorter for this, but like a session or two. But it says in Disco Elysium, you're probably going to be like reading a bunch, so I have to like read it out loud. And or no, I guess they did voice it though, didn't they? I'm not sure. Yeah, somebody's saying maybe a racing game or like platformer or first-person shooter or something. Oh, Samurai 3. Okay, yeah. I think I've played 1 and 2. So Ace Combat Assault Horizon. 1, I'm not a very good pilot. 2, I mean, don't those games usually have like a pretty, well, I don't know about Ace Combat, but like a lot of flight games can have significant learning curve, so. Well, somebody's saying turn-based combat game. I actually don't know if Quest for Glory has turn-based combat, but if I'm talking while I'm doing it, that could kind of get me through it. Like I think it's a hybrid game. It's like half adventure game, half RPG, but I honestly don't know if the combat's real time or not. I forgot. I didn't have time to check. So yeah, this time next week probably, or like an hour earlier or something. But if not, I'll probably kick it to 2 weeks from now. So it just depends on how much I get done. Right now, the next game dungeon is like 90% of the footage is recorded, of the main game footage, not the extra stuff I insert, because that can take time. The script is about 75% done. Voice work's about 2/3 done, or maybe a little. But I feel like even right now, I'm going to be working like almost nonstop on it from between now and like this time next week. And I'll be lucky if I'm in a comfortable spot with it. Because like the editing and everything, putting it all together, it just takes so much time. Like things that are simple in concept, because my brain will think, oh, well, that only takes 15 minutes. Oh, no, it takes 2 to 3 hours. It is because conceptually it's simple, but then just 100 things like that. So, so yeah, that's the main announcement. I'm just trying to get the game dungeon out. I also did work announcing the UK petition opening whenever that goes up. So I've done most of the recording on that. I just need to edit it together. But it hasn't gone up yet, so I don't need to release that yet. Okay, so yeah, now I'll get to regular. So I say voice work, maybe a little what, Russ? A little bit of time, No, it's like editing, because I'll think like, because how long does it take to edit 5 minutes of the video? It's like, well, that could take an hour or it could take 5. Like that's, it depends on what I'm doing, or more if it's like really tricky footage I need to get to put in there, like really specific. So, but I think people will be pleased with my pick for the next Game Dungeon episode. This one's a more well-known game, but I definitely had some commentary for it. Okay, so yeah, questions. If a PlayStation 4 emulator that's powerful enough to run Bloodborne decently on PC was developed and included a cheat table, would you play that game? Yeah, I mean, I plan to. I'm kind of waiting for that. I think it's sort of in like a prototypal stage now, but I can wait until everything's polished. Plus, I think there was a tease by Sony that they might be re-releasing Bloodborne on maybe like newer platform, and Sony's been a lot. I would label Sony as like most improved as far as bringing their exclusives over to other platforms like PC. Because it used to be they just never came, and now they're like eventually come. So I mean, I'm patient, Yeah, my impression, based on what people were telling me when I was doing the Dark Souls stream, I would probably be a little bit better at Bloodborne because apparently it favors like offense more than defense, and I tend to play more offensively. But I also suspect that the boss, I'm just not going to like the boss. I haven't even seen a boss fight for Bloodborne, but based on what I know from Software, I won't like any of the boss fights. I mean, they'll look cool, but like, okay, I guess I'm more casual on this sort of thing unless I really like it. But to me, like for me personally, a good boss fight is one that I can very likely beat within like 3 tries, something like that. And if it's going to take a lot more because you need to memorize all this stuff that's happening and or it's tricky execution, then I'm not a huge fan of like doing that over and over and over until I get it. I think like to me the ideal boss fight is one where I either make it on the first try but I barely make it, or I get killed on the first try, but I felt like, oh, I have this. I just need to do this couple moves better. So that's way more casual. Yeah, see somebody saying, I don't think you're going to like Bloodborne. Yeah, I'm assuming their bosses are. See, the main enemies when I played Dark Souls they felt tough but fair. But then I don't like the respawning of them. So thematically, I'd love to check out Bloodborne. I mean, I love that theme. Actually, one of the games I played back in November, I think it was early November, was The Last Faith. And that's like if you took Bloodborne and mixed it with Blasphemous, like a Metroid 2D platformer game, but it has that kind of dark Victorian Gothic fantasy feel to everything. So, but yeah, so maybe I'll see. I probably wouldn't be playing Bloodborne legitimately. It's not my style. I like to kind of just have a good time and go to the next game. Or if I really, really like the game, want to replay it again, then I'll be considering like harder challenges or other ways to play it, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's for a different type of player. But yeah, thematically, I'm completely on board. Gameplay wise, I'm like half or a third on board with From Software games. That's kind of where I am with it. Okay, some more questions. I saw this question. I really thought about it. I don't have a lot of great answers though. Have you ever expected to dislike a game, show, movie, etc., only for it to totally surprise you and become something you genuinely liked? That's probably happened, but I can't really remember it because it's usually a lot more the reverse happens, where I'm expecting to like it and then it just falls flat. And it usually, see, the thing is, if I'm expecting to dislike it, I'm probably not checking it out in the first place unless some circumstances lead me down that road. And then, I mean, I don't know if I'm like, okay, one example, I think there was another one that I can think of that it's not like I was really, it's kind of half-hearted, would actually be Killing Time, the video I did, because I had seen footage of, I think, the 3DO version of Killing Time. I thought, oh, this doesn't look so good. But I'm not sure if I even connected that to it was the same game at the time. But then I like looked at just like the first like 2 minutes of the PC version. I'm thinking, oh, well, this looks promising. And like, so then I just kind of went through blind after that. So yeah, the 3DO version looked rough. It just, like, I think I assumed like, okay, maybe this will be like one segment of the game that's rough, but maybe it gets better or something like that. But even then, thematically, I was on board for Killing Time. I'm trying to think, is there a show or movie? Okay, yeah, that was the other one. Again, this is sort of like a half-hearted example of this, was the Fallout show, where I heard people say it was really good, but the thing is, you can understand my bias thinking that a video game show or movie is probably not going to be that great, because that's kind of my experience 90% or more of the time. So I went in skeptical for sure on Fallout. And then like they won me over to a large degree. It started off great. I love the beginning. so that helped a lot, you know, with the so yeah, and I think it lived up to the hype, because that can happen with all kinds of media, especially games and movies, where if a ton of people are hyping something, that can almost make me enjoy it less, because then it's like, okay, you just keep raising my expectations to the moon, and even if it's pretty good, it's going to be really hard to match those the more it gets just overhyped. You know, that's why I try to stay a little blind to some things. You know, so I don't get it over, because even if it's really good, if it's somebody there is going to hype it like it's the best thing ever, and you know, it's about setting your expectations in the right place. So I like not having things overhyped. I like just going. I like just having a premise that I might like something. You know, just get just enough to get an idea, then just go in blind and then see how it is, because it can be really satisfying that way if you are doing that and you don't have all this context surrounding it. So, well, somebody was mentioning Walton Goggins is good as the Ghoul. Yeah, he is. And then also, one thing I noticed, it's not as bold as I would like, but I noticed the music theme for the Ghoul stood out, and it was a good theme. So I would have liked it even a little more pronounced, but I'm glad it's like, oh, good, we're not making everything completely generic music. This is a memorable theme here, for music theme for the ghoul. So yeah, no, that yeah, I think I said before on Fallout. I think they under spirit wise, I think they understand Fallout better than Bethesda does. Like it felt more like they clearly got what Fallout was about from like the original original games, that they're kind of carrying over that spirit and mixing it in a lot with stuff from Bethesda games, but it's still, that's what it's about. They got the spirit right, and that's like that can be a difficult thing to do and hard to define. So let's see. Okay, there are multiple replies under that. Let's see. Okay, that was. Oh yeah. Thoughts on the recent campaign to try to sue Mojang over their recent behavior with the EULA changes for Minecraft. Yeah, the guy who made that actually reached out and emailed me. So I sent him a reply of like, there was some overlap, because I think the big overlap in both of what we've been doing with Stop Killing Games and what he's doing is the unfair terms under the EULA, Directive 9313 EEC. And so I told him everything we did. I gave like some general advice, though I'm not sure how many options he had, like ideas I would have than what he's already doing. But I got a reply from him a couple days ago saying he'll give me a real reply later, but he probably got swarmed with emails. So yeah, I told him no problem. He can take as long as he wants on that. But yeah, I think this shows. I think this actually does show the fact that the Swedish Consumer Agency basically blew him off, shows what an accomplishment it is that we got the issue escalated at consumer agencies in France, Germany, and Australia for Stop Killing Games. And I think the only reason we did it was because we had so many complaints about the crew, because we really needed a candidate like that to get anything done. So it's, yeah. So it's kind of like what we had that he didn't were thousands of complaints. So I said, you might still be able to get this escalated, but you would need to have it kind of organized so that, tons of Minecraft people are complaining about it and sending it to the right agencies. And I also mentioned the German agency, for Braucher Central, which I'm probably butchering again. They'll accept complaints. I mean, it's still going to have to be German complaints, but they'll accept it about other EU companies, even if it's not in Germany. So, yeah, that's why I said it's not very helpful. It's like, yeah, if you wanted to try to organize a campaign like I did, you might have a few more options, but he's going the legal route, and it sounds like he's raised enough funds to sue them. So, great. I mean, I had no confidence about being able to afford something like that. Or like grasping the process. Plus, I'm always so much more wary about taking people's money for something unless I'm like really sure I can deliver on it. So, and I guess because it's Minecraft, his went way more viral. It was up to over 2 million last time I looked at it. So, yeah, that's another thing with this issue on destroying games. It's like it's hard to get people to care about it. It's like they care at the end. Yeah, they care once the game's been shut down, but by then most people have already moved on to something else already. So it's always an uphill battle with this. So, but yeah, so saying, is there any way to piggyback off the energy here for Stop Killing Games? I mean, maybe, but well, I did mention Stop Killing Games. I said like to him, if you get the opportunity to mention it, feel free to. And I explained our situation, but I didn't want to like ram it down his throat. He's probably really busy now. I'm trying to think because it is the same. There is some overlap on the same issue, but it's like there's they're different. They're different markets. I mean not markets. What am I saying? Venues for legal activity. I mean, yeah, if I can get his audience to know about it, but it's his audience, so I'm in contact with him. I'm not sure how exactly to connect the two. So let's see. The Yeah, so I think, I mean, maybe I could do more, but again, it's his audience. So yeah, he reached out to me. I gave him a quick reply, and he'll respond to me when he's able to. I didn't want to pressure him on it because I know what it's like having, 100 emails every day you need to respond to, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, we'll have to. It's possible this could be a way to start eroding the overall practice. But yeah, I'm just having difficulty grasping like how to connect the dots between what we're doing and what he's doing, even though there is that overlap. But yeah, if he does mention it, that's the best I think we could hope for. Okay, so yeah, more questions. What's a joke or bit you've done in any of your series that you're really proud of? This is the sort of thing where I probably tend to forget soon after I make the video, but one I mentioned before was in Freeman's Mind 2, I really did like yeah, your dad just killed us. Like I was just imagining if that was scenario was going down and him saying that, because it's like the opposite of don't panic. It's like, no, let's create panic. This is one I thought about. Well, I guess it was the obvious one. What is the dumbest thing you've ever done? I don't mean regretting a decision after some time, but doing something and instantly realizing this was a bad idea. I mean, I'm sure I've had many smaller moments about that, but I probably tend to forget them. But one that definitely stands out, almost killed me, is when I was a kid. I would typically run. I mentioned this before. I would typically run outside, and if I hit the screen door just right, the handle to it, it would fly open, and I could just continue running. Well, that time I didn't hit it just right, and the ripple caused the glass in there to shatter and rain down on me. And yeah, that's how I have this scarf. You can see it, not really. It's also, let's see, I think it's on my right side of my neck here. Yeah, that cut my carotid artery. I was bleeding all over the place. And thankfully, my mother was able to get me to the hospital. But yeah, that was a pretty instant regret moment. And I stopped doing that after that happened. So I'm sure there's lots of smaller ones, but I'm just drawing a blank on them. Hey everyone, I decided to cut part of the stream since after I did it, I realized I might be playing with fire putting it on YouTube, since I don't always know their content policies on certain topics, and this one brushed against one that might be problematic. So I figure it's not worth risking the channel just for one of the video chats. If you're wondering what it was about, it's that I think escalating towards nuclear war is insane, full stop. That's all you were really missing. I don't particularly enjoy talking about really serious matters like that anyway, so that's it. Back to the stream. Oh yeah, this one really varies on what you're trying to do. Somebody's saying they have a bunch of ideas for short films they'd like to make, but have no experience or resources available to make them. From your experience working on your movie, is there any advice you give to someone who's stuck in the developing ideas phase? Well, I mean, that, like some sort of planning you do. Well, it really depends a lot on your medium, because I actually tried to do sort of like small scale short films with camera and live people when I was younger. For that, you kind of need to just, I guess, first thing, look at your ideas and figure out what sounds most doable, like with budget that you have, or if you have no budget, then what you can like, scrape together and, maybe get friends to help, that sort of thing. Um, and try to get that made. Yeah, you would need a camera, but you can maybe even borrow one. But I guess, yeah, now you have smartphones everywhere. You could easily use that for recording. Um, but yeah, just try to use like your most basic ideas that would not take a lot of production value. For but see, once you get into like 2D or 3D animation, that's a whole different thing where the biggest thing you need there is just time to just throw at it, like learning the software, then going through and animating it. Maybe you can find other assets to help uh, kick you off, that sort of thing. So I was saying when you were younger, this would be in your mid-teens, 20s? Yeah, like late teens to 20s, that sort of thing. Okay. But yeah, just, yeah, start with something less ambitious and then work from there, I guess is the most broad answer I can give. Okay, I'm going to skip a couple that they're just, some of these just kind of feel like they're dumb ones, but not like my kind of, my kind of fun dumb ones. Oh, and somebody's saying at the end of the stream, can you raid us into someone else's stream who cares about Stop Killing Games? I mean, I could, but I don't know who to raid to. So, and also I don't want to annoy too many people with it. That's the other thing. But and they're asking, also, why do werewolves hate vampires? That rivalry shows up a lot. I'm wondering what your take on it is. Okay, I kind of looked. I wasn't sure, so I kind of looked up some stuff. The earliest known example of that I know of, I could be having some gaps here. Let's see, I had some notes on this too. If I can, yeah, here we go. Was probably Wolfman versus Dracula, the old kind of Universal monster movies where they're just thinking like, all right, both these were popular, let's put them together and try to get more view. It's just kind of like with, well, I think they're kind of doing that again with Godzilla versus King Kong, or in horror, you had Freddy versus Jason, that sort of thing. Now, there's a long gap after that maybe there was stuff going on there, maybe there wasn't, I don't know. But the next item on the list that I know of is Vampire the Masquerade. And that was published in 91. And there they detail lots of vampire lore. And yeah, it's part of World of Darkness. They had Werewolf series too. And in that, werewolves and vampires are at odds with each other. So maybe there's a gap in between. Maybe there's something in between that connects Wolfman versus Dracula to Vampire the Masquerade. I have no idea. But for sure that kind of laid the foundation. Vampire the Masquerade definitely had some cultural influence. So that kind of laid down the foundation for it. Then I think the next big tick after that was the movie Underworld, which was very much vampires versus werewolves, and they did a good job of it. So that kind of reignited it. And then after that, the big ones were Twilight and True Blood, which both kind of kept that moving. So, I think that was that's the sort of thread that I know of where, and I mean, I didn't care for Twilight, but a lot of people did, so that helped popularize it. And True Blood was also very popular and well done. So, but between Underworld, Twilight, True Blood, and prior to that, Vampire the Masquerade, that kind of solidified the rivalry theme there. But maybe there's some other origins of it that I'm unaware of. Let's see. Bloods versus Wolves. I haven't seen that. All right. Let's see. More questions. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of one group or organization having it as an idea and then doing a good job on it, and then that help popularize it for other mediums, or stories. What games have you been enjoying as of late? Nothing. I've been doing nothing but Game Dungeon in the campaign. And in the campaign. But early in November, I was the big ones I enjoyed were High on Life, Last Faith. Oh, what was another one? Geez, and now I'm forgetting what else I played. I just kind of keep a list and I just check it off, and then it just kind of gets buried under my entries. I think it was another platformer, but well, another one I did play, but that was quick. It's too bad I played it because this would have been perfect for a stream. Was Super Skelomania, and that was pretty good. It was like a short but well done kind of Metroid type game. But damn it, I know there was another game I played that I can't remember, but yeah, I like those. Okay, yeah, I think this explanation is maybe leaving out some details, but since Valve essentially wrote software to emulate Windows so any game can run on their Linux-based Steam Deck, most games, not any game, but yeah, most games. Some game publishers have gone back to games as old as a decade to deliberately make them incompatible with this software, all to preserve their association with Microsoft and make sure Windows remains a gaming monopoly. Have you heard anything about this? Would any of the goals of Stop Killing Games address this issue? Okay, well, the big one I heard was for Apex Legends, where it used to work on Linux, but then they made a change so that it doesn't. And their explanation for it is that it's like as an anti-cheat measure because they have like really invasive measures for checking it on Windows that they can't effectively implement on Linux. So they see it as a security risk, so they nullify it. I don't know how valid that is, or maybe it's the sort of thing where it's technically not true, but it could be a lot of work to do it in a way that is friendly to Linux, up to the standard that they have, and they don't want to deal with that. Or maybe it is just a cover story. I don't know if it's really to preserve associations with Microsoft. Maybe it is, though. I mean, I would need details. I think it's probably, usually they always put like anti-cheat out in front of this, where they just kind of want more control over the software or to prevent cheating. But again, I could completely believe that that's just a cover story and they have other reasons for doing so. But it's not obvious to me what it is. I would be surprised if Microsoft is saying, do this, otherwise we're gonna pull some favors for, remove some favors we're doing for you if you don't shut out Linux. Because I mean, Linux is, I think to most of the games industry, it's mostly an afterthought, where the sales on Linux don't really justify doing stuff for it one way or the other. But a lot of Linux gaming can get caught in the crossfire also, where if they're so it's like they're giving no considerations to Linux. So if they need to make a change that they feel necessary for whatever the reason is, and that breaks Linux, then the stance is, yeah, well, we don't care. Now, as for Stop Killing Games, sorry, but the direct answer is no, because we're single issue and we're just trying to stop the games from being destroyed. And this would expand the scope of it and have much worse odds, because what you'd be saying essentially, the only way I think you'd have a real strong case on this is if they sold this game saying we support Linux or we support the Steam Deck, not Valve coming in afterwards saying this game works on the Steam Deck, but the publisher never said that, or because then if the publisher is saying this only works on like Windows, this version, well, that gets them some liability, but only for that platform. So it's not that I don't think it's a good idea for this stuff to work on Linux. Also, I do. It's just that from a legal perspective, I don't see how you address that in a kind of a slam dunk way without broadening the scope, because then by that same logic, what if somebody on Macintosh got the game working even though the game was never supported for that? Then the publisher comes in, makes some changes unrelated to that, but that breaks the compatibility on Mac. Well, then can Mac sue them for that, or Mac users, even though they never advertised to have it work on Mac? I mean, see, and then insert any other operating system like that. So it does seem like overreach and kind of an unreasonable expectation of the developer or the publisher. Now, that said, the less of a slam dunk route on this could be that it goes back to the unfair terms and the end user license agreement, where, you know, if their license agreement says we can do this and then that's unfair the way they have it structured, then yeah, they might. Even then, no, even then, I'm not sure they'd be on the hook directly. So it's just, I mean, I want games to be able to work on whatever platform people want, but I also feel like if the developer says, no, we're only running it on this, we're only supporting it on this platform, that should be their right to do that. It's usually the cases that I think are much more damning are when the developer promises to support on this platform and then they change it, then they change their mind so that it doesn't anymore, and there's no way for you to keep running it on that platform. Like, honestly, it's kind of what Steam did with, with like Windows 7 or earlier Windows XP. It's like, I feel like Steam should have the right to end support for a given platform, like a version of Windows. However, I feel like they shouldn't have the right to take away a working copy of what you have on that. Or it gets more complicated for games that are like kind of like live service, like all the time, constantly updating. But that gets into a gray area. But if it's just like something that like the old copy worked on your operating system and you didn't have to connect to them, but then the new one doesn't, and they're forcing you to go into the new one, that's where I think it gets much more actionable. But yeah, it's kind of a mess. Yeah, so I'm sympathetic to this, but I just don't see an angle of it for Stop Killing Games, because Stop Killing Games, it's always been single issue, and it's always been about stopping the worst of the worst, where no one can play the game again. Like, no one. Everyone who bought a copy, they can never play it again. You know, so that's kind of on a, it's not that what you're describing isn't bad also, it's just that I think what we're doing is like, it's even worse. So we're trying to go after the worst of the worst, so. Okay, so he's asking if I've tried contacting H Bomber Guy about Stop Killing Games, but then below that, somebody says he did retweet when Ross launched the campaign and the UK petition. So I actually haven't been bothering people who just mention it on their own, because I figure, okay, great. I don't need to bother them now because they're giving it coverage. So I actually haven't. Plus, that assumes I'd be able to reach them. Anytime there's like a YouTuber with like millions of viewers, I don't necessarily assume I'm going to be able to make contact with them at all, because I almost never am able to when it's from my end. Yeah. So it's asking if I have any Christmas traditions. Not really. What is your favorite Christmas movie? National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, easily. Like I'd have to think about what number 2 is. Like that whole movie is just, it's not only my kind of comedy, but it's like many aspects of it feel very real. So, it doesn't paint this picture of like this idyllic Christmas. It captures a lot more like the arguments and the family tension and stress. Yeah, this one's been asked a couple of times. What is your desert island #1 game? So in other words, like if you could only take one game to a desert island. Um, yeah, well, I guess I mentioned it before. I would probably, it wouldn't be the best game. It would probably be the one that I feel has like the most replayability for me. And I think the one I went with is kind of an unconventional answer, Forge, which is like this third-party program to let you play Magic the Gathering with just like kind of any combination against the AI with like any combination you could think of. It's kind of a pretty Spartan interface, and it's like not my favorite game, but I was thinking, well, that would it would be like an okay game to play just for a really long time that I would keep seeing new things. So, oh, and they're asking, what new games are you looking forward to the most? Shoot, I looked this up and then I forgot. Let me get okay, so for new games, I just did like games of 2024 to, let's see. And I just looked at the list and there were a few. Let's see if I can find the. Okay, so ones I was looking forward to. I'm not sure if this is one. I don't have enough details about it, but it looks like something I could like. Animal Well, that's one of them. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through a list here. Oh shoot, they did the slideshow thing. Well, okay, some of them. Pacific Drive, that was another one I was interested in. Where's the other list? Ah, man, I know I'm thinking of another one that I feel stupid. I really meant to like write this down and have a list so I could be ready to go, but then I didn't. So this. Let me check this other list. So a lot of these are like listing like DLCs or expansions. That if I haven't played the original, then I don't know if I'm gonna like the expansion or not. Geez, I feel dumb. I don't have this list because I looked it up earlier. I thought like, oh yeah, those are a few, and then I forgot the ones. I meant to look it up again. Then oh okay, Homeworld 3, but I still need to play through the other Homeworlds. Okay, Last Epoch. I never remember how to pronounce that. Yeah, that's another one that went, I think, 1.0 this year. Because there's a whole bunch of games I'm thinking like, well, maybe I'm interested, maybe not. I don't know. A lot are kind of in that category whereas all the ones I'm mentioning, it's like, yes, I definitely want to check them out at some point. Oh, that was it. Space Marine 2. Yeah, that was definitely on the list. That would be towards the top. I'm definitely interested in playing that one. Yeah, because it was bugging me. I know there's another game I was like definitely looking forward to. I played the original, and I think my biggest complaint about the original was that the environment they had was kind of dull. I mean, there were like a few set pieces that you see in there of showing like the Forge world, but a whole lot of that game is just a bunch of like rusty ruins and metal and hallways and stuff that don't stand out that much. So it sounds like between having a more exotic planet and the Tyranids, like I'm sure the second one will be better. Oh yeah, Helldivers 2. That was another one. I'm interested. I mean, it's still too pricey for me to buy, but yeah, that's one I'm interested in. Thematically, I'm on board with that. Let's see. I think those are the main ones. V Rising. Is that still in early access? Did that leave? That's on this list here. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in V Rising. Okay, well, that's all I have. And the thing is, there are probably dozens of other games I just don't have on a list in front of me where I probably noticed them earlier and I just wrote down the name on like a list, and later on I'll sift through them and put them on my list, because these are just like the bigger name titles. So only Homeworld 1 and Cataclysm are worth playing. Well, I've heard people say good things about 2, but I know it can be really hard though. Are you going to do a video about Inscription card game in the future? I didn't have plans to. Let's see. Is that the cult one? I mean, the artwork's all right, but it doesn't really grab me, so I don't know. But probably not. But I mean, I guess if I was compelled to. But so I'm saying Factorio Space Age came out this year. Well, I've only played a little bit of the original Factorio, and I wasn't really getting into it. But maybe I feel like that's also one that I probably didn't give it enough of a chance yet. Because like some games I can tell immediately if they're gonna be my thing or not. Others I need a few minutes. Factorio was one that struck me. It's like I might need like a good half hour, 40 minutes to like really figure out if this is, or maybe a little longer, to really figure out if this is for me or not. So, but that's another example of like an expansion where I still need to go play the original to. I know some people find Factorio really addictive, but I mean, which is great if it does addict me, but it wasn't quite grabbing me. So, but I also feel like I didn't give it enough of a chance, because I feel like it strikes me as the sort of game where, you know, I need a better grasp of the mechanics and kind of a feel of where this is going to really judge it. Whereas other games, what you see is what you get within like the first 3-5 minutes. You know, and it's just going to be more of that. So, yeah, I'm not writing it off yet, but I need. It didn't grab me within like the first 15 minutes, I guess. So, but it's the sort that needs longer to judge for me. Let's see. Yeah, and plus people can have different preferences, because like I know some people really like that. I guess it's kind of a niche thing, but what was it? Viscera Cleanup, where I love the premise of it, but it's not really something I want to play. Where the idea is you're a janitor and you're coming in after, like, you know, these sci-fi action movies. It's like you're coming in after everything's gone down and you're cleaning it up and restoring it. And I looked at some of the levels. I thought it was hilarious. One looked like it was like the aftermath of almost like a RoboCop scenario or a robot uprising, where there was obviously some protest group going on against this major robotics corporation, and there's like all these like bullet holes in the walls and like blood stains and like explosions and like smashed uh, robot parts and that sort of thing. I think it was another one for like Alien, where, you know, there's like, or something like Alien, you know, where there's like this, all these blood stains all over the floor, like acid burns and, you know, shell casings that you have to clean up. So I thought that was like a hilarious concept, though actual gameplay wasn't really my thing. But yeah, it was. So some games can be kind of like that, where it's like a fun concept, but I personally don't get into it. But for some games that others can get really addicted to, I just don't care about. But then others, it can be the inverse for other kinds of games. So it just kind of depends on your personality and what you're looking forward to. But yeah, this year had a whole bunch of games that struck me as like, maybe, I don't know. And I'm just, whereas all the ones I mentioned, it's like, yeah, I want to check this out for sure. So yeah, Space Marine, Pacific Drive, probably Alien. Well, I mean, Animal Well, though I don't know much about that. I know it's a Metroid game, but it kind of, there's also like a puzzle aspect to it and might get weird. So it depends. I usually like kind of Metroid style mechanics, but it depends a lot on the theme for me after that. Because there's been a few like Metroid games that just get like super weird, and like that's kind of all they have doing, and I'm not really into those. Or sometimes the level design, some of it feels really natural and good, and then others feel like it's kind of like it doesn't quite draw me in the same way. So someone mentioned yeah, I mentioned Desert Island. Did you mean deserted? Well, the question itself said Desert Island, but they probably meant deserted. Yes. So. Oh yeah, that's another game I never got around to playing. That could be Evil Islands. I was kind of curious about that. Yeah, I guess if people really wanted, I mean, what was it, Death Trap Dungeon? If I still have my saves, I could maybe bring that up again. Though that was kind of rough because that one's hard capped at 15 frames a second. Yeah, that's a game that could really use some frame generation. uh, oh yeah, that was some gaming news that kind of flew under the radar in my opinion, but I really hope this is not a sign of things to come. The new Indiana Jones game, what was it, The Great Circle? That is the first game I'm aware of that requires hardware accelerated ray tracing. So it's not, apparently it's not optional. It requires ray tracing. And man, I did not like that because I mean, ray tracing can be a big hit, and compared against like really good looking raster graphics, I'm not like it's kind of minimal. And plus it can also have a power consumption hit. There was an article I saw where this guy tested like with a power meter where he was running a game at full load and then enabled ray tracing. And I think it was on a GeForce 3080 Ti. And what he found was when he enabled ray tracing, like, you know, the ray tracing cores on it, it was 180 watts more. I'm thinking, geez, I think I would need like a new power supply to do that. So it's like, it's not that ray tracing is bad. It's just like the trade-offs. It just really doesn't feel worth it to me. And the thing is, people can probably point to the game saying, oh, but the game looks so good. It's like, okay, well, have you seen Death Stranding, the people in that? The characters in Death Stranding look really damn good, and that uses raster graphics. So, I mean, I'm kind of skeptical, like, how necessary this is. You know, but yeah, I hope this does not become a trend because that would be a cynical way to look at things because it could be maybe less people are buying video cards, for one, because they're expensive, but two, they might be needed less and less because advancements are more kind of incremental now in graphics than they used to. Whereas like in the old days, the difference between like medium graphics and high was like pretty dramatic. Now it's like if you were to show me two screenshots, okay, this one's medium, this one's high or ultra, I might not be able to tell right away. I'd have to like analyze it and like, oh, okay, yeah, that part's a little different, you know? So yeah, so to make it mandatory, I don't know. I have to wonder if that was like some insider deal that they did that. But if more and more games start doing that, that would be a way for companies to sell more graphics cards, which, I mean, I'd rather have for my taste, I think games look so good already now, I'd rather just have the resolution or frame rate bump and not have to enable ray tracing. But that'll be interesting to see if someone develops a hack to run the game without the ray tracing, so to see if it's possible. Now, I bet that's probably a challenge for some people. So. Yeah, it's not that it's not good. It's just the trade-off just doesn't feel worth it. especially for the performance hit and the power hit. So, let's see. No update on the soul contracts. I haven't been back to the U.S. since I made that episode. Someone's asking about that. If you were to collect any physical items, what would it be? Well, I some things I sort of have collected. I have a printout of a whole bunch of art that I liked back when I had access to a color printer that I had laminated. But now I'm just, I mean, I guess I could still do that, but I think I would like so much art I would run out of space to display it. So, and plus, when I've had to move a lot in the past, that kind of discouraged me from hanging things up too much because then I have to undo it afterwards. Other things to collect. Well, I've kind of inadvertently collected several mice over the years because I'll use the mouse and then it goes bad. But then I sometimes hang on to it because sometimes like only the middle button is broken, the scroll wheel button. So I can just use it on an old system where I'm not doing much with it. Or other times, other times, even if it's just gone, I don't want to use it again. I still kind of hold on to it because I can be real picky with mice, and I've never found one that I like truly love. But I want to retain some of the old ones so I can remember what the shape feels like. So if I'm having doubts on a new mouse, I can think, well, wait, that kind of looks like that one, and they'll feel that one. I'll be like, yeah, it's so. Because you often can't tell how a mouse is going to feel just by looking at it. So the fact that I have these old mice, it can kind of remind me, it's like, okay, was this tolerable? Yes, no, or something like that. Yeah, I actually ordered a reduced rate mouse because I checked. I tend to use ambidextrous mice, not because I'm left-handed or ambidextrous. Like, okay, if I can show the camera, because there's buttons on both sides, and it turns out there's a lot of manufacturers stopped doing that. Because Myonix used to have one. Was it Rocat used to have one? SteelSeries used to have one. They've all stopped. I'm thinking, well, geez, this one's been lasting me a while, but when it goes bad, I don't have a backup. I was looking up, okay, well, does the competition have any? There were a few, but then some of them only worked. Yeah, I think like Ducky had one, or what Fnatic. They only half of the buttons work, so you can choose left-handed or right-handed, but you can't have both. And I'm just thinking, well, what's the point then for me? There was one I found. I don't even remember the name of it. I think Logitech has one like this too, where I like wired mouse and not having like the extra weight from wireless, and they were both like wireless combo, which not only adds to the price, but I don't really want wireless stuff anyway. So if I just wanted a wired mouse, let's see, a 7-button mouse minimum, the buttons on both sides or both fingers, it was kind of hard to find. So I found an old SteelSeries one that wasn't too much. So I bought it as a backup that I ordered. I got that during Black Friday, but yeah, it's not that I prefer ambidextrous. It's that I like a button for each finger. Oh, sorry, I forgot to do that last time. A link to my crazy mouse manifesto. I'll do that this time. I'll have a note here. Because sometimes they say, oh, I'll put a link to that, and then I forget to write it down, or else I wrote it down in the wrong spot, and then I forget to put it in the chat later. But yeah, that was... Yeah, I've kind of inadvertently collected mice. And not too many. I don't want to keep doing it, but I've also inadvertently collected keycaps for keyboard where I wanted to be able to test out how they felt, because surprisingly, they can actually feel quite different. Not just how they feel like on your fingertips, but like your actual typing speed and like how far down the key goes and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, art, I mean, well, music. I mean, I collect that want to listen to. Games. Oh, but they mentioned physical stuff. Yeah, the thing with physical is depending on what it is, that can kind of make it harder to access, like in bulk. You know, like with games, not too much. Like I mean, a whole bunch of my game collection is just on external hard drives that I have. That I just kind of keep it in there, and then when I want to install it, I'll just power it on, and then copy the files, then just unpower it, that sort of thing. So I'm saying a Swift Point Z. Okay, let's. I want to see this mouse. Let's see. Oh no, the Swift Point Z doesn't have mouse buttons for the pinky finger. So that's already. Yeah, look, I accept I'm a mutant. Okay, like I just. Apparently almost nobody uses their mice like I do. Yeah, not only do I use a button for each finger, but I'm a 1-3-1 mouse grip. So yeah, it's almost like a different dimension of how like most people use the mouse. That's why I should show that link. Well, here I might be able to pull it up in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. I'll put it in the chat here, and I'll put it on YouTube description later. You can blow up the image on it. It shows what I'm looking for in a mouse. So yeah, again, no mouse has ever met. If I was wealthy, I would want to have one commissioned, or set up like a really small company, and so other freaks could buy the kind of mouse I like too. But for physical collection, yeah, like with music, it's a lot nicer to have music digital, because then, like, if you want to jump from one album to another, it's easy. Where if it's physical, it's more of a hassle, and better to contain it on the same disc, that sort of thing. But no, not a huge collector, not a huge physical collector, because the way I look at collections is, I feel like if you're not kind of semi-frequently enjoying your collection, then it's sort of a waste. So I want stuff that I can like would really access kind of frequently and get a lot of use out of. Whereas those other collections I have are just sort of accidents that have happened over time. So. Okay. Okay, this. Oh yeah, this is one I don't have a great answer, but what's your opinion on Epic Game Store as a player in the industry? And then they're mentioning that if you publish your game at Epic Store, Epic forces its terms that the game must be cross-platform with Steam, meaning Epic players must be able to matchmake with Steam players. Because of this rule, if the game is sold, developers have to go to Steam and update their games by adding Epic Online Services into Steam, into Steam, which breaks everything. That's happened recently with Payday 2 and Saints Row 4, old games that Epic gave away for free. That's why developers have to update them on Steam, effectively sabotaging their own games. And then below that, there are multiple replies where somebody's saying that explanation has a lot of spin to it, and then there's more on it. So my first thought is, this sounds complicated. I would need to research a lot on it. And so I'm saying Josh Strife Hayes for the raid. Yeah, I can maybe do that. If he's on now. Yeah, I mean, that does sound like a mess. And like, it's not obvious. See, I feel like there's like a lot of variables of this sort of thing, because on one hand, Steam it's for a long time, it's kind of like, I think you make the argument more in the past, but it's still kind of like a pseudo monopoly if you just look at like pure market share for PC games. So you kind of do. I think it's handled things quite well for one. mostly, but you kind of don't want too much power concentrated in one place. So, I mean, Epic is a challenge to that. But if this is creating more work for developers, it's like, well, they're probably aware of it, but maybe it is a hassle or maybe they're implementing it poorly, because I was amazed how long the Epic Store went without being able to add multiple items to the cart. Or I think gift games was another one. Maybe I haven't checked. Maybe you still can't gift. You probably can by now. But I was thinking, that is such a fundamental thing for an online digital store, and they're launching this with just millions going into it. Like, what are they doing? Like, it took a long time for them to add like a shopping cart feature, so you can buy more than one game at a time. And so this is why, for like all these like in between details, it's like I have no idea, and I'm mostly looking at the end outcome. And for me, the end outcome is, can I run this game indefinitely? Like, will I be able to keep my game in some fashion? If it means I have to jump through a bunch of hoops, okay. Or if it means like I have to pay attention, like there might be a 90-day window where they shut it down, but I can grab a copy then that I pay for, okay, that's all right too. But the way I look at all this stuff is, at the end of this, can I play the game that I paid for? And if the answer is no, or we're maybe, or we're not giving you an answer, then to me that's really bad. And you see some of that with both Epic and Steam. So it's kind of like, I feel like once it's at that point where like your game has been destroyed and there's no way you can retain it if you go through like one service or another or something. See, that's where I feel like something needs to step in. Whereas all this in between stuff, I feel like the publishers and the developers and the storefront, they can fight it out. Like and the customers too. Like if the customers decide they don't want something that's doing these practices, fine. So see, stuff like this, I feel like is a good implementation of vote with your wallet, or like what kinds of games you like, that sort of thing. I feel like vote with your wallet is always such a misleading approach towards the game preservation, because you don't get a vote in the direction that you want, because if you buy the game gets destroyed. If you don't buy the game gets destroyed. So what exactly do you do if you want the game preserved? You have no options. So that's why you don't really get a vote with your wallet on games being destroyed. So it's what? It's stuff like this strikes me as a mess, and I'd rather leave it to people who know more what they're talking about. And I'm only caring about the end results, so just work it out however they want. And as long as the game isn't destroyed that you pay for, mission accomplished. That's how I look at it. So can you please comment your ratings on every Diablo game if you've played? I haven't, let's see, that new expansion. Yeah, I haven't played that new expansion. Someone gifted me 4, so yeah, I think I have played all of them. And I actually disagree with the comment underneath. Somebody's saying Diablo 2 is the finished product, Diablo 1 is the left incomplete prototype, and 3 or 4 are microwave reheatings and pale imitations. And then they say any other way is lying or obsessing over graphics. Well, no, I disagree with... I'm not trying to be a contrarian, but 1 is my favorite. It's the scariest. That's what I wanted out of Diablo. I wanted it scary. And I think 1 is easily the scariest. I think 1 has the best music. It has kind of the best atmosphere. And the gameplay definitely has a lot of rough edges. But it's... So you could kind of... But at the same time, I think some of the streamlining came at the cost of some of the fear or elements in the later ones. So I think for me, it's kind of like for 2 had a lot of good gameplay, but thematically, it felt like kind of a letdown to me. I almost feel like 3, in some ways, I kind of like aspects of 3 thematically better, but the soundtrack's way weaker than 2. I mean, 2 still had a lot of distinctive music, but yeah, like 2, it just kind of, we're not, like okay, one way to put it, it just occurred to me now. Okay, imagine if like a new Dark Souls game came out and it was thematically like 2. Let's say the gameplay was good, but you would think like, is this really Dark Souls? Like this kind of feels like, you know, lighter and like less kind of focused on the grim aspect of it. So yeah, one I like a lot. One's my favorite. The Hellfire expansion is more like, it's more like the dumb fun. It added some stuff, but it added some stuff that was good and added some stuff that was dumb, is how I felt about Hellfire. 2, it's like I kind of have mixed feelings about. Some people are fanatical about 2. I just thought it was okay, to be honest, which might sound like heresy. 3, I never played until they updated the stuff with the, with getting rid of the auction house. So I didn't have the front row experience for 3. I thought it was okay, and I liked some of the like art direction and mood of it. The music was weak. The gameplay is like, I don't know, mixed feelings on it. Story I thought was weak. And the Reaper of Souls, that just kind of felt like more of the same. And 4, okay, I don't know. Okay, here's the thing of 4. 4 ended up feeling like a chore to play, and I don't know why. Okay, like, because it's like there's some aspects of it that I guess until you get to like high level builds or something, some aspects of it. Well, let's lose my train of thought here. High level. Oh yeah, it feels like you have to, except maybe the Necromancer, you have to keep using your basic attacks just to charge the other attacks. I was thinking, well, that kind of feels sort of lame to me, because like I understand basic attacks like in the beginning to kind of, you know, get your bearings and kind of make the character more and more powerful, but then it felt like you can never escape it. And maybe there's some end game builds with like unique equipment that you can constantly generate your mana or rage or whatever, so that you don't have to keep doing the basic attacks all the time. But it just felt like you just couldn't escape that, except for Necromancer. So I'm just like, I didn't like that, but I don't think that's why I didn't like it exactly. Like the art to it, some aspects feel very polished and good. It's just that overall, it almost feels like it was like AI generated or something, like the layout, because it just like, you just sort of keep running into the same things a bit, and they don't have that much personality to it. I don't know, even though it's very high definition for 4. And I don't know. I don't like, the story also felt just kind of like so, like not amazing, but not awful. But usually with Diablo games, I'm looking at this all from the perspective of what is the campaign experience like. And a lot of like diehard Diablo people are looking at it like, what's the end game like? We're replaying this for like the 50th time or something. And I'm not really looking at that so much, because I kind of, once I've gone through the main expansion, the main game, I kind of want to move on to like the next game. Unless something about the gameplay really hooked me in, that sort of thing. So I don't know. Something was off about 4, and I don't know what it is. It's just the basic attacks are part of it, but I don't think that was all of it. So that can happen to me sometimes, where some games just, they're like missing this hook and you don't know why, whereas other games just kind of grab you immediately. So yeah, I'm the contrarian, I guess, who likes 1 more than 2, but yeah, it's all kind of, it's all kind of a mess. I mean, not mess, varying degrees of not grabbing me, and I'm not sure. Oh, that was the other game I played, Wilson. Yeah, that was another one that was like, okay, I thought. I would say it kind of felt like Diablo 3-ish. Like, no aspects of it were really amazing, but it was okay, you know. Yeah, I knew there was another game I'd tried out. Oh, somebody's saying a whole lot of people like one more than two. That's news to me. I've seen, like, every article I've seen is basically praising two over everything for Diablo. And, like, I can understand that from a gameplay wise. Though I remember, I think two kind of lets you screw yourself a little more if you develop the wrong skills. But yeah, yeah, it's a mix. But yeah, no, it for me, the star of the show for Diablo 1 was the atmosphere of it. And you feel like you're just going down more and more into hell. And it's like this really somber tone up on the surface with with Tristram, and the music's great through all of it. So it's a smaller scale game, but like thematically it's a home run in my opinion. And to me, none of the sequels ever hit that. So, but if you are the sort of person who's spending hundreds of hours playing the end game, then yeah, you're not going to think much of one. So, we different people can play the same game for different reasons. You know. So he's asking if I've ever been to Alaska. No, I haven't, though I think I wouldn't mind living there. So. Have you seen the news about Genie 2? A large learning language model capable of generating a playable game with working controls on the fly based on a single image. Is this another step towards your dream software? Not exactly. Okay, I might be misunderstanding how it works exactly, but like, I think there's a lot of overlap in like the general concept of what's being done, but they're kind of going a different route that I think doesn't really take me to the dream software, though I'd be happy to eat my words on this. What this does, I think, is like from an image, it's done an analysis of a lot of games so that like when you press like a key to go forward, it associates that with lots of images or trying to replicate lots of similar images based on going forward. And it's kind of like sort of tracking those pixel combinations and that sort of thing to create that image. And it looks kind of soupy and has that like AI creepiness feel to it. But it, like as a rough concept, it looks very impressive. And then like if you shoot an enemy, it's probably tapping into like billions of examples of like shooting an enemy from games. So it produces something that likely matches those conditions. But it's still just like generating the pixels, I think, for this to kind of create that look. And that's not what the dream software would be. What the dream software would be that it's looking at this image, and then the next step is to just kick that map out to a model, like a 3D model and like a textures to go with it, for the AI to try to take its very best, its very best guess as to what that 2D footage looks like what the 3D version of it would be. So, you know, if you have a hallway, it's like, okay, based on its entire model, it thinks that this hallway is this shape, so it's going to export a 3D model that's that shape. And based on the textures it's seeing, it's going to generate these textures and like try to apply them to that in the game engine. And then once it's kicked it out to the game engine, Yeah, it might look a little warped, but you're not going to see that like constant rewarping of everything that you get from the AI look, because then it's just happening through raster graphics. So now it's in 3D in a like a more kind of normal form that we're used to for games. And the what? And then for things now where it gets like probably even more complicated is like I mentioned, like so let's say you shoot an enemy. First, the AI is going to have to look at that enemy and it's going to make a decision that, okay, this is something that resembles an NPC, a humanoid enemy that has these logic characteristics in a game engine. And it's going to export that, like that entity, and it has this shape. And when it does this, it has these animations. This I'm simplifying a lot, but it's like the AI is basically trying to make the best association it can with the data that's being fed to something that resembles what that unit would look like in something like Unreal or Unity or something. So then it outputs that, and then this is like the extra mile for the Dream software. This is the part I wasn't even sure if it'd be doable. So then, like if it, let's say it sees this blob that looks like a gun on the first-person shooter image. Okay, well then it's going to interpret that like this is very probably a weapon, and a weapon in these types of games has these characteristics like in Unreal Engine. So we're going to send this to, it's going to have a weapon flag with this texture. And then like, let's say as it shoots, it tries to divine other properties of it, of the enemies and so on. So instead of just trying to output an image, which is where all these experiments are going, which is kind of the wrong direction for what I want, what we want is to get 3D models and logic entities for games, and that's more specific. But the 3D models, I think, is more broad, especially 3D models and textures. So I think that's where I think that's how we get the Dream software. But this more and more development on trying to produce the 2D image, almost like it's a streaming thing. Again, I could eat my words on this, but right now it looks like more of a parlor trick, even though it's very impressive and doesn't really have a practicality that was obvious to me, because even then it's still pretty blurry and soupy and just like I wouldn't want to play that over like a game somebody actually made. Whereas I think if the AI was devoted to trying to replicate what it was seeing as clearly as possible, then I think you would see a lot less of like what I called like the AI creepiness look and that sort of thing. Okay, so next questions. Someone's asking if I ever recorded Freeman's Mind. If there's an episode but decide to rewrite it or record it for any reason. For timing purposes, that's happened several times. Maybe just thought it could be better, or maybe you thought a joke might be a little too risky. I don't think I did that, although in the risky stuff is copyright. I'll say it right now. In the next game dungeon, I decided to omit a clip I wanted to include, but I thought, I'm playing with fire on this one. The clip I was going to have, it's from a sort of a comedy album by Adam Sandler, What the Hell Happened to Me, called Joining the Cult. I'll have a link to that. And it's hilarious, and it tied back to something I wanted to show in the video, but I'm thinking, I timed it, and I'm thinking I really need about 12 seconds of this clip to like make the point, and that's probably going to be too long for YouTube. And even though this is fair use and I could defend this, I don't really want the copyright strike. So, I mean, not the strike, the claim, I guess, that I have to fight and everything. So I decided not to include that. So usually like the longer of the clip that you have to show, the more at risk it is, and the more like mainstream it is. And I could check, like there were like those little extra labels under the YouTube video, the way you would have for like a music album. So I'm thinking, oh, good. That means like probably the RIAA is treating this like something they're just ready to pounce on for a copyright claim. So I figured, no, I can't show that. It's gonna be too. Um, it's gonna be too like risky, and then it's not worth it for just that one joke. But I did want to put that there. So that's not something I've done a lot of, but it's happened a couple times. Like yeah, like in the Copa Nada episode, I wanted to show that that fight of football fans in the parking lot. I thought that would have been funny to include in there, but I thought that one wasn't a copyright issue so much as that one might have been a content warning issue. So yeah, YouTube, it's more restrictive on this. So. Okay. Let's see. Have you ever? Oh wait, no. He had another question. Oh, they're saying, at any time in your life did you consider joining the armed forces? No, I never really liked. I mean, it's not more than like a thought experiment, I guess, because you know you can be kind of aimless and not sure what you're gonna go or how to make a living. But I didn't like the idea of being like on base 24 hours a day, that sort of thing. Although I was you wouldn't think it looking at me, but I was considering law enforcement because my mentality was I wanted to end up with a job where I wasn't bored. And with that, you never know what's going to happen each day, really. Let's see. I had a couple friends who went to the military. Yeah, I had 2 friends who went to Marines. I had one friend who was in the Navy. Let's see. I'm trying to think of some others. Yeah, these are the ones I could think of offhand. Have you ever played Minecraft? And if so, do you have any really old survival worlds with lots of interesting builds? No, I have played Minecraft, yes, but not that interesting, no. I mean, the most interesting thing I did was I just made like these giant kind of tiki style statues out of cobblestone. Then I put lava inside them for glowing eyes and mouths. So it was like this, like look, and make like a massive one in the jungle. I thought that looked cool, but usually the thing about Minecraft and a lot of like crafting, building games, sandbox stuff is it starts waking me up. Like the more like you're building something within the game, because I start thinking, well, wait a minute. If I'm putting all this time into just kind of building something, maybe I should build something that has like a little more like utility, or like maybe make another video that people might like, or one of my own projects. Because at the end of this, it's just going to be like a level or something inside a game, and that it just wakes up something in me that I should be doing something else if I'm doing that. So I don't know. It's just something in my brain. So I'm saying, is that person called Davy? No. No Davy in the Navy. Let's see. What are your thoughts on lives as a game mechanic? And that they personally think they only work in arcade games that are coin operated. For any other game, they seem like an extra layer of annoyance and frustration that doesn't fundamentally align game progress. Yeah, like there might be some weird exceptions, but for the most part, I think you should either have infinite lives or 1. Because there is something to be said if it's like kind of a hardcore mode experience. Yeah, that's going to be more suspenseful playing it like that, knowing that if you have 1 life and that's it. But yeah, if it's like one of the games I tried playing a while ago that I was thinking, man, this would really be better if I could just have infinite lives, was a Super Hydora. It was kind of like an R-type knockoff, and it's pretty good, but you have 3. I think you had infinite continues, but you had 3 lives. So the thing is, you get to a level and get a ways into it, but then you die and you start at the beginning, but then you only have 1 life. So it's almost like, it almost incentivized to like, okay, if you don't have all your lives in the chamber, it's better to just kill yourself so you can get the continue and then start over fresh with your 3 lives. And I was thinking, man, that's like, this is, the game industry got better than this. Like we learned that, this isn't the best way of doing things, but to their credit, they were going for a retro style, so maybe that was part of the appeal to it, but I didn't like that aspect of it. I mean, I guess you could have games where you can kind of do things to get more lives, but usually that kind of feels like grinding then, and I'm not a fan of that, so. But yeah, it's, let's see. So he's saying, as a present, my wife once made me an abbreviated recreation of the path, their journey through the, okay, I must be coming into a different conversation. Something about the Hobbit. Oh, a recreation of the path they journey through to the Hobbit. Oh, like, I guess in the movies? Because, Middle Earth isn't real. So, I mean, yeah, but yeah, the movie locations are, a lot of them, so. Let's see. But yeah, I'm in agreement. Either infinite lives or 1. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is a good question. Have you heard about the EU bill against damages caused by proprietary software? It seems primarily focused on safety and hardware, but bits might be useful against games being destroyed. And they're talking about the destruction of corruption of data, such as digital files deleted from a hard drive should be compensated for, including the cost of recovering and restoring those data. And I think there's other things. They might even mention medical devices. But, okay, I'm pessimistic, but I think this won't tie to what we're doing with games, because I swear, it feels like every single time it isn't specifically targeted at game destruction, it always misses it, like always. They never want to deal with that. So I'm just assuming this won't impact that at all. I think this does sound like a good idea, and this is kind of what I mean when I talk about how the European Citizens Initiative, it actually does kind of have as light a touch as possible to still solve the problem. Because like this is not as light a touch. This is saying that like if you release software and some bug damages anything, like you're liable. Well, unless it's open source, that's what that's the exemption. Like if it's closed source, and look, that would be a nightmare for many companies because they're used to like not having to have that kind of liability and just do updates all the time. I mean, yeah, like Microsoft. How many updates has Microsoft had that could have done some damage? Like it's, so I think it's a good idea, but I can also see where like, yeah, that's potentially really disruptive. So like, I'm kind of thinking of stuff like that. And then when people think it's like, oh, overreach, I'm just like, you guys just don't even know like how bad this could get for you if you just have no regard for customers, potentially. Or maybe they do know and this is a lost battle the entire time. But yeah, I'm cynical and think it just won't apply to games. Or it would only apply if like the game released an update and that did like screw up your OS or like leaked your banking info or something like that. So if it was something like really obviously caused you damage, then yes, but anything less than no. So. Yeah, so I'm saying none of these lawyers are gamers, so they can't get it right. Well, even the gamers sometimes don't get it right. Is what I'm finding. Like, Yeah, like that's the thing. Like how many average gamers think it's okay, think it's ridiculous to have an online requirement uh for single player games, but that's totally fine for multiplayer. And if the game dies afterwards, yeah, well that's just how it is. How Probably a lot. I think they've been conditioned to think that. Whereas I think like no, I mean you can make a multiplayer game work after support ends with no further development from the publisher. You know, it's uh, uh, yeah. You know, I do have. I admit I do have sort of minor irritations where I realized I could have explained some things better. Like if I was making the ECI video over again, I would have framed it differently. I think, like I would have had like an actual graphic showing that if you're trying to fix the game at the end, this can be horrendously complicated and difficult and maybe even impossible under the license agreements. But if you're doing it for a brand new game and like show this step in the process where this happens, it's almost the same as if you didn't have it. You know, I think that could have helped and then use that framing from there onward. But oh well. Let's see. Okay, I've been going 2.5 hours. I'm gonna get pickier with the questions now. Let's see. You worked with multiple versions. Oh yeah, well this got already answered. I'm probably not gonna be updating to the newer Half-Life 2 unless I can really test it. I'm gonna skip a few more. I haven't played Lighthouse: The Dark Being. That one always had like an interesting cover, but then like the screenshots had kind of like a blah look to it. So I might just skim through a playthrough of that one. I have not heard about the game Foxhole. A PlanetSide style game, but it solves the Valhalla problem you have. Oh, let's see. What does it look like? Okay, so we're going more for like a realistic, looks like World War II style. It also looks like a top-down kind of game, so I wouldn't necessarily compare that to PlanetSide. It looks like an isometric view, so like different setting, different subgenre, I guess. You know, but I mean, it could be good. Oh, I didn't see this one. They're saying you've been told to make the greatest Halloween event ever, and you've been given an infinite budget, 30 days to plan and organize. What would you do? I guess convert a whole town or city into a kind of spooky Halloween town. So you know, yeah, like you know the movie and the show Westworld, kind of do something like that, except for Halloween, except do it in like the actual town. Well, this maybe okay. Here's a question for the audience coming up. They're saying, "What are your thoughts on modern D&D, Fifth Edition, Baldur's Gate 3, etc.? Do you enjoy the Forgotten Realms setting?" Yeah, I like the general fantasy. Though I noticed in Baldur's Gate, I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, but I noticed in the screenshots of it, a whole lot of areas look like they're real dry. Like it's like an arid area, like maybe like parts of Italy or some of the Mediterranean, like or Greece, Mediterranean. I was thinking, oh, is that part of the canon, or is that like how they interpreted that for like part of the Forgotten Realms? Or I was wondering about that because I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of look. I like kind of like lush forest, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's like yeah, well, I might talk about this next game dungeon, but it's like the soil, like you can tell, like this is a place that doesn't get like lots of rain, or you know. But yeah, I like the general kind of fantasy setting. Okay, so Sword Coast is kind of subterranean. Yeah, okay, so it's the Sword Coast I'm looking at then. But but yeah, I don't know the differences between each edition, so I'm not a huge like D&D player. But Yeah, they mentioned Spelljammer. Spelljammer sounds interesting. Like it's really exotic. Like if it's like if it's kind of like if fantasy space was like the high seas and involved swashbuckling and discoveries and that sort of thing. It sounded exotic for sure. See, what's your current take on VR? I am I'd say there's a 90% chance I'm probably going to take the plunge on one of the Pimax ones that are coming out, but they have had quality control issues in the past, so I want to wait for reviews. But that sounds like it's going to check off the boxes for me, where the field of view will be bigger than like almost anything on the market that's not Pimax, and that's not like multiple thousands of dollars. Uh, So you're curious about this tech and where it's headed. I'm very optimistic about VR. However, it might remain, or probably will remain, like a niche interest kind of thing. So, yeah, I'm like the biggest thing I want is more field of view, and Pimax seems to for the consumer end of things. Pimax seems to be the only game in town. Yeah, I checked. Like I have the Samsung Odyssey Plus, which I think it has the same vertical field of view as the Valve Index, but it's a little bit smaller horizontally. I did a check. If you were to look at it being equal or greater for both dimensions, um, there hasn't been anything since it was released that's bigger except Pimax. So, I mean, it feels almost crazy because there's all these developments, but I'm thinking like the field of view makes a huge difference in immersion, you know? So, but they do have a mixed reputation though. Like so I, I don't trust them enough to pre-order, but I'll wait for reviews, and if it sounds tolerable, I'm probably going to go for it. Okay, just going to skip some more, sorry. Let's see. Oh, that's a good question. Too bad I didn't see it. You said previously that you've had a high drive for survival. Which dystopian society from fiction do you think you'd fare the best in? I don't know. I mean, the ones that are like more civilized, I guess. I mean, I feel like I could handle something like Children of Men pretty well. But I'm trying to think of like stuff that's like more exotic. I wouldn't want anything with like radiation. It's a real risk. And some of them are pretty awful. Like Elysium would be really rough. I wouldn't want that one. Uh, Brave New World. Yeah, I could handle Brave New World definitely. Um, yeah, we'll go with that. Brave New World. There's a lot of flexibility in that one. So he's saying, have you ever played a video game that really made you feel like a fighter pilot? No, but I haven't. That's not a genre I've played a ton of, and I think if you really want to feel it, the VR, you want it for that, but it might make you sick. Yeah, my tolerance has gotten better for VR, though I haven't revisited any flight sims. Like I remember I tried out like one of the versions of Elite Dangerous, and I was getting motion sick within like I want to say 20 seconds. It might have been even sooner. So, and this is when I can still play a first-person shooter like in the 3D theater vision for 20 minutes easily, maybe 40 minutes. You know. Let's see. Do you feel that Do you feel that since, okay, somebody's asking about constructive criticism I've received, that I'm sure there are, except I probably forgotten it and maybe incorporated it. This is one of those things I have to like really stop and think about. Do you feel is stop killing games draining your creative energy, putting into videos? Yes, but not. It's not that I don't think I'm creative anymore. It's just time and energy. So not really creative energy, just time and energy. Can you tell us where to send fan contents? Well, I mean, I guess I can have an address, but I have like limited space too, so I don't really just accept like blind like packages or something. Oh, they're saying fan art. Okay. Um. Oh yeah. Well, they're saying you don't know where to send you. They're saying Twitter, email, YouTube, Reddit. Email is the most reliable way to contact me. Though if it's like big scans that take up a lot of space, you might want like an external link or something to like a file locker or image hosting site. Okay. And Daniel Potato Stove is asking 3 questions in a row. Let's see. Someone's saying, how do you avoid running into crap online, crap discourse, and terrible political takes when you navigate the internet? Maybe I didn't this time. I mean, I just tend to focus on, like, on one, the things that interest me, or one that I think are like more of more importance. Because, like, with some whole lot of political topics, imagine you just advance 10 years. How important is this? And for some things, you might think, maybe not that important. And I look at that through that lens through a lot of things. Other things can be super important, or I had in one of the videos, Ross will remember that kind of importance. So different things jump out to me. And also, I see some topics as almost being like energy drains, like or attention drains. Where, like, let's say you have like 10 topics, and I think 1 or 2 of them is like crazy important, and like another 2 are interesting, but then another topic here that's taking 90% of the discourse. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, whatever, you guys can figure it out, And someone's recommending VTOL VR for feeling like a fighter pilot. Let's see. I have talked about Hollow Knight before, so I'm going to skip that. It's from the same person. Let's see. Any recommendations for OS if all I want is decent art program or browsing? Or should I just get newer hardware and stay on Windows since I don't use a PC for much? Yeah, we'll figure out what software you need. That's probably the big thing. Yeah, I mean, there's really, as long as, okay, saying for recommendations for OS, the main risk of staying on an old OS is like internet security. So it depends on how much you're using the internet on that OS. So if you're not using it for much, you could also, I mean, this probably is more involved than you want to get involved with, but you can also use, if it's like a Windows program that you use, you can use a virtual machine, and I might have problems with the hardware acceleration then. I don't know. I would need to know more about your situation. Sorry. It was a little bit broad to give you a more definitive answer. Because there's like a balance between what works best and what takes the most of your time setting it up and learning it. So you kind of have to factor both of those in. Let's see. Have you considered many of those games? Okay, they're saying I didn't want to review recent 3D games due to apparent lack of accessibility thanks to jacked up GPU prices. Well, that's one of the reasons. But Have you considered many of these games have been ported to consoles, which are typically far more affordable than any given PC card, graphics card? Let's see. You can play both Doom 2016 and Eternal on a Switch Lite, which retails for $200. Basically, if a game came out before PS5, I think it's safe bet that most gamers would be able to run it in a general way, one way or another. That's not the only reason. I mean, it's also like new games tend to be more buggy. But like, I mean, has the performance issues for newer games sometimes, but the cost, yeah, I mean that's an obvious one. But for console too, it's like, I mean, to me that automatically limits the game to like what's going to be best to be played with a gamepad. And to me that shuts out a lot of different genres, or like best for me to be playing with a game. Like any game I have to aim, like a gamepad's almost certainly out, or if like but if it's like a 2D platformer or something, sure, gamepad's fine. So I was saying, well, but how about We Happy Few? I don't know what it was in context to. I did play We Happy Few finally, though. What do you think about the wrapped concept? I don't know what that is. I think where you get your annual stat presented to you in a nice way. I think this is something that YouTube, if any platform, should pick up on. It'd be nice to know which channel you spend most time viewing. It's probably fun for some people. I don't find it particularly helpful for me because like it's like you're only tracking like one platform for what you're doing with your time. So it's sort of, so unless you're spending like all your time on one platform, it kind of skews things for. Is Freeman's Mind discontinued? No, it's kind of in limbo, though I should probably get back to it. Let's see. It's like I'm trying to like amp myself up to a point where I feel like I could do a spree of episodes again. So, and I've just been too busy for anything else at the moment. I really will be happy to kind of wind down the Stop Killing Games campaign and let the government take over. Oh, they're saying the bit in the opening where you do the evil maniacal laugh, the laugh was either longer or you lowered the volume in YouTube Studio sometime after uploading. Are you crazy or is this truly the case? No, I didn't touch anything after it's uploaded. But what might be happening is YouTube has this feature now to like automatically balance your volume. So some louder sounds might have been made quieter because of that. So it's a YouTube setting, almost certainly what you're encountering. So you're not crazy, but it wasn't on my end. What do you think of surround sound in movies and games? It's awesome, though I haven't done it in a long time because, then you can disturb your neighbors. So I'm pretty much just on headphones now. Okay, this is a broad question. I didn't really notice. What are your thoughts on Path of Exile 2 not offering an offline single-player mode? It's all the same thing again, where, yes, I prefer that, but it's not a big deal to me as long as the game doesn't get destroyed. So it's all about the end-of-life plans. What do you think of Deus Ex Breach, a free-to-play single-player game that requires an online connection as dependent on a central server? I didn't know about that. I know that, yeah, I'm thinking of The Fall, I think, was when I was thinking of. I hadn't even heard of that. Yeah, that's somebody saying it could be a candidate for a shorter game dungeon. I kind of don't want to cover more ones that require online connections, but unless they have an end of life plan. I'm unfamiliar with Half-Life 2 Overcharged. Okay. Okay, I'm getting towards the bottom. As I'm reading the next questions, you can put in the live chat. Somebody's saying, "Would I survive?" And we happy few. I can handle that, but it'd be kind of tiring, pretending I'm happy all the time. So, okay, so you can do at Ross Broadcast and ask questions you want me to respond to while I look at these last few ones. So, okay, someone's saying they appreciate me trying not to have jarring edits from one thing to the other. I try, but I don't always manage to. But do you think our descendants will one day leave planet Earth? Well, not at the rate we're going. Like, that's kind of what that big discussion was about earlier. I think it's possible, but we really need to figure some stuff out first. And I don't mean technologically. I mean like socially, civilization-wise. This is too broad. How crazy do you think technology can get? I mean, it's very broad. It could get very crazy. Without looking, can you remember the name of that ski game? Yeah, or most of it. It's like, oh geez, something free ride. Oh my god, yeah. Let's see. Okay, can I ski extreme free ride? Something extreme free ride. I think. So no, not 100%. That's why it's that ski game. Yeah. What anime did you really enjoy? Either something you watched this year or something much time ago. Okay, first off, I barely watched anime. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 dozen total. Out of my favorite, Akira. Like it's like I like the setting. I like the arts. The atmosphere's amazing. Like the plot's weird. Like it's, but I mean that'd probably be my favorite. So. I'm aware you dislike achievements in games. Is there any achievements you find amusing, pleasant, or satisfying to get regardless of your bias against them? Well, I don't hate them. It's more like I don't want to know about them. Like I just want to be into the game. Yeah, there is one, and it wasn't even an official achievement. In Unreal Tournament 2004, like I was just in the middle of a match playing a bunch, and like the announcer says "flak monkey" to me, and what that means is you've been getting a bunch of kills with a flak cannon. So I kind of like them calling me out as to how I was playing the game. So I like games adapt. I like games calling out or adapting to your style. That can be kind of fun, but that's usually that's not even like a normal achievement. But I do like achievements that kind of, I don't really like them popping up while you're playing, but that, well, I guess there's two that I like. One that sort of keep track of the progress, just because then I can see stats as to how many people actually played through this game. And also how many people played through this game that also beat the first level. So, not people who gave up on it immediately, but people who gave it an honest shot, And sometimes the number can be very small, so I sometimes feel like a winner if I've just completed it. That like, yeah, I got to see the end of the game, And the other I like is sometimes ones that are cryptic, where it makes me think maybe there's more to this game than I realize, and like there's some weird secret I'm not aware of. So it's kind of giving me a clue that, like, maybe there's something whole other aspect of this game I'm missing. So. Okay. Any other ideas on how to reach more Eurogamers and Eurogamer streamers ladders? Well, again, we have 1 or 2 pushes coming that are in the works. I'm kind of rough on ideas because, again, I'm not the best at reach out. I'm trying, but, like my video on the campaign got what, over 300,000 views, and the guy doing the Minecraft video is over. Last time I checked, it was like 2.3 million. It's probably higher now. So he knows what he's doing on that. I don't. So it's well on promotion. I feel like I did. If anything, I feel completely validated with my strategy of going through the consumer agencies. But yeah, if this next, I have a few ideas, but if this next push doesn't work, then I don't know. Have you seen or played any of the Star Control games? No, I haven't. I mean, I've heard of them, but like 4X games tend to take, those are more of a learning curve. I have to be like really in the right frame of mind for those. I feel like if I didn't have so much crap I needed to do all the time, then I would might be looking more into those. You asked if the chat was clipped outside the scene. Just letting you know, it is. Oh, for crying out! It looks okay on my end, so yeah. Clipped to the right. It's okay if it's clipped a little bit in the bottom, but they'll pop up eventually. You very consistently do both Halloween and Christmas game dungeons every year. Is this from some sort of sense of obligation, or do you enjoy it, or some other reason? I don't enjoy deadlines one bit, and it's 100% a matter of obligation. For Halloween, I do like having a spooky episode, but it's like everything moves at a faster pace than I'd like, so I'm scrambling to catch up most of the time. In Condemned Criminal Origins, you're in BTS content with achievements. Thought this was, behind the scenes content, yeah. Are there any other Flash games you can recommend? You know, I recommend a short form Flash game. I forget what it was called, but I think it was kind of like a vertical shooter, and the idea is the more you play it, you unlock points, and then you spend the points on upgrading the graphics. So it starts off with like really primitive, like pixel level stuff, and then you get like vector graphics or wireframe, and then you get polygonal, kind of Star Fox-ish, and then it keeps. I thought that was a cool concept. I'm sure there's some more Flash ones, but I've covered a few. Oh, Star Control is space exploration game. See, I'm getting them mixed up. Well, I'm also not a great pilot, but let's see. Star Control screenshots. It sure looks strategy based, but oh, okay. So, well, the screenshots. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I got mixed up. Maybe, yeah. There's. I remember another old game like that. It was like Solaris, but yeah, maybe I can check it out sometime. Space exploration also can kind of throw me off, but that looks like a 2D. If I was gonna pick like one space exploration game to play next, it would probably be Freelancer, because that's kind of like a cult following, and it sounded interesting conceptually. Did you ever get into Morrowind? I'll talk about that in a future episode. And let's see. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm gonna go eat. Sorry the talk got more serious, and we'll see how many people unsubscribe from me now. That's really not where I want to take my focus. To be clear, that's not like for the channel. I'd rather focus on just like fun adventure stuff, and that's what's gonna be next video wise, assuming the UK petition doesn't drop before next game dungeon. Okay, stop it here, and the chat will help me figure out how to raid. So.